Somos familia. Welcome to the November edition of the Tortilla Diaries, celebrating El Día de Gracias, or Thanksgiving. I'm your host, Dr. Rebecca Dominguez-Karimi, oral historian, and this month's program features a mini oral history workshop. I promise this episode will get you ready to start collecting your own oral histories from family members. In this day and age, with so many families accessing Ancestry.com or 23andMe for their DNA backgrounds, many often wonder about their more recent ancestors, say a great-grandparent or a great-uncle. I know by now you're asking yourself, what's an oral history? Put simply, it's a life story captured in a series of mini memories. Typically, oral historians spend hours collecting a life story. But I'm not advocating you spend hours, but rather minutes. 5 to be exact. I'm suggesting you gather what I call a mini memory. A mini memory is a chunk of time. 5 to 10 minutes of alone time is certainly doable. Just think, if at your Thanksgiving Zoom meeting you can interview 4 loved ones for a mini memory, in the end, you've collected 4 precious memories from 4 different people. Did I convince you? Then let's begin. As with everything, you'll have an equipment list, but I promise you probably have everything already at hand. And if you celebrate virtually through the Zoom app, then it's even easier. Okay, so now you're asking yourself, well, what do I need? Number 1. A recording device. This can be a smartphone, tablet, computer, or a video camera. Or if you want an audio recording only, a digital recorder, or even a cassette recorder. I'm sure you still have one of those lying around. I also suggest you have a camera to take still photos. Number 2. 2 to 3 questions to ask. Pick one per person. Number 3, a pen and a paper to take notes. In this age of technology, it's become much simpler for all of us to gather the voices of our loved ones. And of course, the recording devices are numerous. You can easily record and interview family members. I think the hard part is getting everyone together at once. But if you're gathering for a holiday dinner or a family Zoom meeting, you can take advantage of the time together, ask a few simple questions, and obtain a priceless memory. Depending upon the recording device used, the first rule of thumb is power, battery power. Is your phone fully charged? Is the power cord available? Does your video cam or cassette recorder need batteries or even a power cord? It's a good idea to sit near a power outlet just in case. The next most important issue is memory, storage memory. Does your video cam need a fresh SD card? Or do you need to upload files to the cloud? Next, we have familiarity. Familiarize yourself with the recording device before the event. If you think you remember how to use the video cam but aren't quite sure, then time to go on the web and Google search the user manual. I suggest you play around several times with your device just to make sure everything works. As for a Zoom meeting, make certain you're the host, as this feature enables you to record the meeting. It's a good idea to wear headphones and make sure to have other group members mute their audio. Otherwise, distracting conversations and noises can unintentionally disrupt the interview. Your audience or your family members can still listen in, but they can't be heard. If you prefer to use your phone as a voice recorder, there are several voice recorder apps available in the App Store. Plus, it'll transfer your files to multiple cloud servers or to Dropbox so that you can share and save. Here again, familiarity with the app equates to good results. You're listening to the Tortilla Diaries, a monthly production of Treasures from Aslan, written and produced by Dr. Rebecca Dominguez Karimi. Okay, now let's say you're not comfortable with technology. That's perfectly okay. If you prefer the easy way, guess what? A digital voice recorder might be your answer. These handy-dandy devices can store audio files to your computer, too. Now that you've gathered your equipment and tested it, the next step is the fun part: storytelling. How do you get people to talk? One rule of thumb for encouraging storytelling: family photos. Have several family photos available to stimulate memories. Can you think of anything else that might stimulate memories? What about food? Make sure you perform these housekeeping issues a few days prior to the gathering. Otherwise, it can be frustrating. Can you imagine how frustrating it can be to have Tia Carmen in the middle of telling the spookiest ghost story that you've been wanting to record all your life and poof, your screen goes blank because the power or the memory on your phone has run out? Okay, now for the fun part, the questions. But what to ask? Well, if you've ever wanted to capture a favorite family recipe or a ghost story, or even life before COVID, now is the time. Really, don't all these questions merit answers? How do you ask all these questions? I know you're wondering what I'm talking about. Don't ask a question that someone can answer with yes, no, or I don't know. These questions lead to, you guessed it, dead ends. Instead, ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions open up conversations, encouraging stories to be told. Here's a few examples. Number 1, tell me how you and your husband or wife met. Number 2, as children, you told us ghost stories or fairy tales about mythical characters or creatures. I'd love for you to share your version with me. Number 3, I love the recipe for blank that you make. What are the ingredients? How do you make it? And is there any family history behind this dish? While the recorder runs, use your pen and paper to take notes about other interesting details that might come up during the interview. These notes will be valuable for future mini-memory sessions. A timer might help to keep track of time, especially if you want to interview several family members in a limited amount of time. That's all there is to it. Now you have all the tools available to gather your own mini-memories from your loved ones this holiday season. At this point in our program, I'm going to share a mini memory that I recently recorded so you can hear the do's and don'ts and know what to expect.
Tell me about your most unique vacation and where did you go?
I think probably it has to be my trip to Costa Rica. It was quite an impressionable expedition as I was able to become acquainted with the local culture, explore the environmental wonders, and interact with the locals. One of my favorite outings was hiking at dusk along the Arenal volcano. It was spectacular to see an active volcano and watch the wonderfully bright red-orange lava run down the sides. It felt a bit dangerous, and I imagined that I was studying eruptive volcanic activity. So it was rather risky walking among the already ashen lava, and it was getting dark, and our guide, who was a wonderful, wonderful man, he said that he wasn't supposed to take us in that area, but he did. It seemed very mystical and, like I said, dangerous, as if maybe a ghost would come out of somewhere or someone who had been caught by the lava, hot lava. I was very fortunate because as I was reading, I learned that it hasn't had an eruption since 2010. I felt, very privileged and fortunate to have experienced its activity.
You're listening to the Tortilla Diaries, a monthly production of Treasures from Aslan, written and produced by Dr. Rebecca Dominguez-Karimi.
I'm trying to get ready for work.
I know, I feel bad. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and let's do it fast so that you can go. And I promised 5 minutes. So what you were going to tell me about today, I think what we decided the question that you liked was give a memory about your favorite recipe and what kind of a family history does that recipe have for you in particular?
Well, a family recipe, I would have to say that there are two family recipes. One would be my grandfather's carne guisada recipe that he used to make in his restaurant that was attached to the Ice House, Vance's. That was something that whenever I was little, I used to be able to do my shop duties by help cleaning up the toy department, and then I would get paid in carne guisada tacos, chips, and salsa. I think this developed my love for these foods. It was just such a wonderful time from beginning to end, being able to work with my grandparents in their store, and then to be able to partake in the food that was made by my grandfather, and then to have such memories of love and bonding attached to these foods. And it has become one of my favorite things to eat, and every time I eat it, it's a nostalgia for me. Interestingly enough, I now cook the recipe for loved ones and on special occasions, and I did not get the recipe from anyone in my family. I actually got the recipe from my Uncle Ricky on my dad's side, who used to work for my grandfather in the Ice House, would help him. I think my grandpa's tacos were so good that he had watched and he knew how to make the recipe. I was able to get that from him. It's a food that just has so many ties to so many different parts of my family on both sides. And it really is an amalgam of sorts that has given me happy memories of both sides of my families.
At this point in our program, I'm going to share a mini memory that I recently recorded so you can hear the do's and don'ts and know what to expect.
Hello?
Hey, Aunt Nomi. It's Becky Jean.
Oh, there you are. Let me see. I can't hear you.
Hi, it's me again.
Now I can hear you. Sorry about that. Let me get one note. I had talked to Ephraim to let him know that what was going on, and he knew the name of the town. I don't know if it's a town or if it's the name of the mountain that was there in Matehuala. And he told me that the name of the mountain and the name of the town were the same name, which is called Real de Catorce. Can we clarify a little bit your question?
Sure. The one I had asked was to let me know if you could tell me about one of your most memorable or your favorite vacations. Describe it.
I remember that with a lot of anticipation for months, my parents would be talking about this trip that they were planning to take. It had been years since they had gone to Mexico. It was planned that both Ephraim and I were also going. I was asking Ephraim about how old were we, and he figured that we must have been about 11 and 12 years old. Also, Luciano, our older brother, went with us. I had a lot of threats, and I had a lot of exciting moments, being sure that I was going to go, and then I wasn't going to go. So Trina had fun teasing me about that. My mom and my dad were neighbors in Matehuala, so they knew each other at a very young age. Once being there, we could see where my father lived and also where my mother lived with her mom. My aunt Lola, who we got to know very well because she would come to San Antonio and stay for several weeks. She recalls being the person that used to take the little notes from my dad to my mom when they were courting. And we found that very amusing, that they didn't have no other love but for each other. Later on, when my dad and his family moved to San Antonio, it was very scary for my mom seeing him leave, and of course it seemed to take forever before he came back. They got married, and then they left by train to return to San Antonio. I can imagine how exciting that must have been, and also how lonely it must have been when she saw him leave. Mm-hmm. So they had wonderful memories of growing up and being in love with each other.
Oh,
isn't that a beautiful story?
Yes.
Yes. They got married at 4:30 in the morning, and that was on the 26th of November, and the year was in 1914.
Oh, they have an anniversary coming up, don't they?
Yes. Right. Well, we have a lot of good memories.
I know. And this is the first time I've heard about that trip back to Mexico, and I think it's so heartwarming that you were able to see the places where Grandpa and Grandma lived, and what's even funnier is kind of seeing them, that they were so much in love. And of course, that love lasted for over 50 years.
Exactly. Yes, and it was very, very special, a very special.
Oh, yeah. I thank you so much for this mini memory that you've shared with me.
Oh, it was a joy, bringing back memories and knowing how happy my parents, how they met. And I think it's a very romantic story, the way they lived in Mexico and then they came to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was such a blessing.
I'd like to ask you some questions, and just answer the way that I've given them, because it's going to be an example.
Answer the way you've given them. What?
I know. It sounds weird. Okay. Do you like the winter season?
Does it have to be cut and dry, yes or no? No.
Okay. Let me see now. Let me see. Did I asked you about the winter? Oh, do you know any ghost stories?
No.
Oh, okay. What else do I ask? I guess I'm kind of like at a loss. Okay, so what I've done is I have given you what is called, or what are called, closed-ended questions. Because what happens? It's a yes or no answer, and you end up at a dead end. Because you're thinking, okay, well, you don't know any ghost stories, so what else do I talk about? So that's why I say those two questions were the examples. That way people can hear what happens in this type of scenario. Now, on the other hand, I'm going to ask you the questions that I had given earlier Tell me about your most unique vacation and where did you go? So now that is what we call an open-ended question because it opens up the conversation. Do you like the winter season?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I could go on and say yes. I really enjoy winter because
Thank you for listening to the November edition of the Tortilla Diaries celebrating Thanksgiving, El Día de Gracias. At this time, I'd like to give thanks for several things: my family, my friends, and the country we live in. After a difficult election that we've faced, my hope is that our nation will indeed unite as one. I know that court battles lie ahead, but our country has encountered these challenges before, most recently during the Bush-Gore election, and the democratic process prevailed. I applaud President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris as they have demonstrated they are ready to take the helm of a country hurting from a pandemic, a divisive electorate, and an economic downturn caused by the pandemic. What's more, they are ready to begin the process of uniting us, not by race, ethnicity, gender, or political affiliation, but as citizens of the United States. It is my hope that the transition of power will be a smooth one, worthy of a dignified people and country such as this United States. Next month we'll be celebrating Christmas, Navidad, and all its traditions. For Latinos, it's a time for family, festivities, and faith. The traditions vary by country, and I'll be highlighting Las Posadas, El Día de las Velitas, and Nacimientos, and maybe a few others. As an added bonus, you'll hear the legend of La Flor de la Nochebuena. Thank you for telling your friends and family about the Tortilla Diaries podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe. So until next month, adios amigos. And remember, somos familia.